Greetings, Doris, and welcome to part 2 of Deck Report week number 13. So, I decided to pilot the Centur-ion deck at locals instead of playing Vaylantz again. And there's a few reasons for it. The number one reason is that uh, I scoped out like most of the majority of the players at my locals, and I saw that not many people were on the fire deck. I saw a lot more voiceless voice and a lot more branded, and I feel like with the way my Centurion deck is constructed, I just have a very better edge against those matchups. Uh, One issue that I have with Valence at the moment is that if I decide to play a deck without any hand traps and I don't draw specific board breakers or I don't draw specific blowout cards that I need, I'm just going to be like losing to those decks. Uh, the Gimme Puppet Lock is just a lot easier for them to do. Some voiceless players at my locals were playing the Jaugen build with Branded Fusion, while others were on the pure variant. Um, and there were other strategies, like for example, the Centurion Mirror Match, which I will talk about that. That if I would have played without hand traps, it would have been a way higher risk. At a very higher tier event, is for me, ironically, it's a lot safer for me to pick something like Valence because since the meta game is a lot more wide, there are a lot more people, and there's no real like indication of what decks they're playing, then it's a lot harder to gauge what you will be facing in the format, and just having something that not many people are knowledgeable of can give you an edge, whether in a smaller format or in a smaller locals, when you already know what players are in the room and you've already familiarized with some of their strategies. It's a lot easier to just pick whatever deck fits you the most. And I got rewarded. I ended third place after Swiss. Uh, I finished X1. I only had one loss. My one loss was against the Centurion Mirror match at round two. Shoutouts to Alexis if you're watching this. Uh, Not only did he defeat me, he won the entire event. He finished X01, which is with just one tie, finishing first in Swiss. It was 5 rounds. I faced the Centurion Mirror Match, as I mentioned. I faced one Branded, two Voiceless, and one Snake Eye Fire King. Um, Against Voiceless, you will see from the deck and the way it's constructed, I just had a very, very easy edge on that matchup. I will explain a very funny play that happened in one of the rounds, and it involved the Bestial Dispatcher. This card overperformed this past weekend. It did so many ridiculous things that I didn't even think about like until I actually did the play. Um, and the Snake Eye Fire King deck, I basically calamity locked them twice. Like it would have been on all three games, but they had imperm on the second game, and they pretty much just Zelantis or decayed me on game two. And but yeah, without further ado, let's begin. I'll talk about the deck. I did a few changes compared to the last Centurion list, and I'll talk about it very briefly. So, three Primera. I'm back on three Trudea, on Emeth, triple Lubellion, one Magnamut, one Baldrake. Uh, I bumped Druid's Worm to three. 3 Crow, 3 Veiler. One other change that I did, which I'll explain after the rest of the profile, is I bumped Ghost Ogre to 3. And that's it for monsters. No Resonator package this time. 3 stand up, 3 oath, 1 bond, uh, 3 talents, and the 1 Brand Dead Regained. Three Imperm, Etude of the Branded, and Vaylantz. That's it for the main deck. The extra, Artemis, Dark, SP, Ding, Typhon, Chaos Archfiend, True Draco Berserker, Baron, Sword Soul, Dispater, Angel, Crimson, Calamity, and Double Legatia. So, I guess I'll show the side deck real quick, and then I'll explain everything else. 3 Droll, 3 Ash, Duster, Triple Cosmic, and then I did one Unorthodox change in my side deck compared to the usual side decks, and I played 1 Forbidden Lance and 2 Twin Twisters. And then the last 2 cards are 2 Judgments. So, let's go to the main deck first. So, what I did compared to last time is I went triple Ogre and I maxed out on the Bestials. At least on specifically Druisworm. And the reason why is the following reason. Reason number 1, I've noticed that against the Fire deck, at least the Fire King deck, most of the games where I end up losing are the games where they Vaylantz OTK. So, Druisworm is just one of those cards that just prevents people from OTKing you. This card is a really big choke point in the battle phase. If you see your opponent breaking your board and they just try to go for game, you summon Druisworm on them, and then not only are you getting an extra body on the board, but you're getting an extra body that can just remove a monster from the field. And it just puts them in a very awkward spot. In order for Vaylantz OTK to be done, is Princess Vaylantz itself and the Salamangreat. So what you end up doing is you just send the Salamangreat to a graveyard. If they do Vaylantz to just pop your cards, then just popping Druisworm won't do them any good because you just take out their biggest monster and it's not enough for game. If they already Vaylantz clear their board and they try to go for a push for LTK, you just summon the Druisworm on them. And this Druisworm has 2500 attack, so if they declare attack with Vaylantz, they pretty much have to crash against it, and then they lose their Vaylantz, and then they lose another card, which is actually really, really strong. Also, I feel like Druisworm is the second best Bestial to summon, besides Boldrake. Boldrake is the best one, because Boldrake is just another interruption, as well as a way to just keep comboing. The Druisworm is also really strong because in gameplay scenarios where your opponent has Promethean Fire Princess, you can just summon this before like summoning, like for example your Tordea or your whatever. And if they decide to Promethean Princess, they're just going minus because they're losing two cards, and all you did was lose the Druid's Worm, and this wasn't even your normal summon. If they do not get rid of Druid's Worm, what that means is after you summon Primera, they're put in a very awkward spot because Primera plus Druid's Worm just makes Chaos Angel. And against specifically the Fire King variant of Snake Eyes, they really don't have a really good out for this outside of like Imperm. So just puts them in a very awkward spot. They cannot Promethean Fire Princess this. This Druid's Worm is just going to be sending whatever their princess target is to the graveyard, and you can just banish Fire King Island as well. So even on the Sanctuary protection, you just like fight through their board. So on that regard, I think Druid's Worm just works very well. Yeah, it's just an awkward card to like fight against in general. There's a lot of indestructible monsters in the game, and just having a card that can non-destroy remove a monster just works out. So now I'll talk about Ghost Ogre. Uh, I wanted to kind of experiment with Ghost Ogre a little bit. For first, it's a light hand trap, light attribute hand trap, so it works with the bestials. If you saw like all my hand traps, you notice there are no main deck attribute hand traps outside of light and dark monsters. I pretty much did that on purpose because it kind of makes it so I can uh, play with my strategy in another way. It just gives me advantage with the way the deck is constructed, and it also gives me advantage in the sense that if I face against Lullaby of Obedience, they don't get to like take an Ash Blossom from me because that isn't like the most common card called with that spell card. It just puts people in a very awkward spot. Uh, that being said, Ghost Ogre was kind of mediocre. So uh, I've opened multiple ogres multiple times. This card is a one hard once per turn, as opposed to like the other hand traps, which is the reason I was playing at one in the first place. But I just kept drawing it at very weird scenarios. Uh, I had this card against the mirror match, and I had it specifically held, just waiting for them to activate Trodea. Um, and I was put in a very awkward position because they had Branded Regained, they had Crimson Gaia, they had the Trodea. Like they had a lot of different cards. They just apply pressure if they're resolving, and there's just too many targets for just one Ghost Ogre. Uh, and shout outs to Alexis. Like, he actually played well into this card. Like he held his Trodea effect until the very end. He pretty much just used all his other engines outside of Centurions in order to like play the game. Granted, he did open like way better than I did, but like I got bodied. Like he 2-0'd me real quick. Um, and as good as Ghost Ogre is in theory versus like the Centurion mirror match, uh, it was kind of awkward. After Legacy of Destruction, this card would be a lot better because I feel like Centurion is going to be like a more popular deck um, after the new support. But at this current moment in time, I feel like this card is just a little bit awkward. I don't regret playing it, but if I were to play this deck again, pre Legacy of Destruction, I would probably like go back to one ogre and switch this for something else, or maybe just go back on the Resonator package. So the going to the extra deck, this batter overperformed. This card is a little bit too absurd for what it does. So one scenario that I'm going to bring up is I faced the voiceless branded deck, and the guy ended on Skull Guardian plus Jaugen. And the way I handled that game was I Primera normal summoned, I added, Primera swung over the Jaugen. In the same battle phase, I banished his Jaugen for Magnamut. And then I swung over the Skull Guardian with Magnamut because Low was not present. Main phase 2, I made Dissipator. And with Dissipator, I brought back the Jaugen on my side of the field. And I had Centur-ion Vaylantz set for whatever normal summon they wanted to do to handle against the Jaugen. And then on my turn, what I ended up doing is I tribute summoned the Jaugen for the Bestial Boldrake that I added with Magnamut. And then I full comboed, I banished his Jaugen, and then Dissipator brought back the Jaugen again. And it was very disgusting. Another really cool card that I took with this was a Mirror Jade. Like I banished a Mirror Jade out of the branded player's graveyard, and I just brought it back with this, and it was just a lot of damage. The negation effect of this came up against the Fire King Snake Eye deck. He had the Wanted spell banished from Witch, and which I can put back with the Dissipator to just negate. So in a lot of scenarios, this card actually worked out. It also was very important that I had this because I opened a Truth of the Branded like 3 to 4 times without access to a Bestial. And that is kind of rough. So, post Legacy of Destruction, we're going to get the Gargoyle, which is another monster that can make the Dissipator. So it makes it a lot easier for you to activate this card, or use its field effect. But until then, it's like it was kind of awkward. Another card that I'm going to say worked out for me. I only Calamity locked once, and it was against the Fire King Snake Eye deck. So my consensus with this card is that against the really really strong matchups, the decks that can just blow you out of the game with like 1 or 2 cards are the decks I'm going to Calamity lock. Against the slower decks that really don't like do those very unfair things, I'm not gonna go for Calamity. I'm just going to go with like my Synchro 10 toolbox, which are these, like instead. Sometimes the Tenji is another card to summon. My Centur-ion opponent, he was playing Ending Master Packbit, and he was playing like more level 12s. Like he was playing the Super Heavy Samurai, Susanoo. I think that's his name. He was playing the Super Red Nova. He was playing the Cosmic Blazer. I don't think that's a bad approach. I just feel like until Calamity it's gone, there's no real reason for you to summon something outside of Calamity with Crimson Dragon. But I can see it in the future, like if they actually like hit this card, you can just use other cards for Crimson Dragon. I have used Crimson Dragon to summon Dissipator in the past. I've done that 1 or 2 times. That is a very helpful play that you can do. But I kind of like this. I do like the Tenji. I think the Tenji is actually not that bad. I also really like Chaos Archfiend. This did not come up for me to like yesterday, but I feel like this still can work out one way or another. In the future, I do if I were to go back on the Resonator package. Shout out to Alexis. He brought that up to me, and I didn't even notice. But Scar Light Red Dragon Archfiend, his name is treated as Red Dragon Archfiend on the field and in the graveyard. So he actually works with Crimson Gaia. That's something I didn't notice until like he brought it up to me. Um, he was also on the Horus package, which, uh, if we go by the metagame standards of yesterday, where there were barely any fire decks, then I say the Horus package works just fine. But against specifically Fire King Snake Eye, that engine is not good, and that's why you don't see me playing it at the moment. Let's talk about the side deck real quick. So, as you can see, I opt to play these. Uh, the number one reason for the Twin Twisters is because of summon limit. Like, the last time I lost against Voiceless with this deck is because like they just set up their actual board and then they summon limit me, and I had no real way to get rid of it outside of just like these four cards. So I kind of just wanted more spell and trap removal. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't get blown out of the game. Um, and at the same time, it's like this also overlaps to the Snake Eye Fire King deck because, or the Snake Eyes in general, because if they try to Flamberge, spawn whatever monster there from the Sprung Trap, you can also like take it off the board, and that's just one less interruption that you have to deal with. Uh, I opted for trying out Lance instead of the third Twisters because Lance kind of helps you in a very specific scenario, and I guess I can explain it. If you summon Chaos Angel, their only real out for this are actually spell and trap cards. So if you lance to protect your Chaos Angel just becomes a real towers. They really can't run over this card. They cannot be destroyed by battle, so the minus 800 from this doesn't matter, like at all. This card is also good against like Voiceless Voice when they're trying to use their trap card on you. This card kind of helps you dodge imperms, which is also a very common scenario. Uh, I can't say that this card overperformed or not. In the future, I might try it out on multiple copies. This was very strict theory more than anything, and yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to this card. Um, but yeah, that's been my deck report. Uh, I really like this deck. I think moving forward towards Legacy of Destruction, this might be my deck for the format. I have a few other decks that I kind of want to experiment. Um, but like I just want to be very experimental with the current format that we're at because the format is a little bit stale, knowing what decks and strategies people are on. But people are being a little bit creative with the way that people are playing with their main decks. Like I already knew voiceless branded was a thing. I did not know about voiceless branded like maining Jaugen, for example. So just being prepared for stuff like that kind of gave me a really good edge. Um, just having a deck that can naturally do well against decks like those is also really good. In the future, that format might become a little bit more popular. Maybe we'll have other hits to the fire deck. Um, but until then, I feel like this deck is just here to stay, and it really like if the Snake Eye Fire King deck is actually hit to some a marginable amount, you really don't care that you don't Calamity Lock people. Like the idea behind the Calamity Lock is just to stop those really strong decks that have a higher ceiling than you from popping off. That's pretty much the purpose behind this card. I don't really try to use it against like matchups where you're equal in advantage, because the only real card that really hurts you, like again with those other matchups, are is this card. And if you don't have to face against this card, um, which is one of the reasons the Solemns are here, I'd say you should be more than fine. Like I said yesterday at locals, my only loss was the mirror match, and they ended up undefeated. So that kind of tells you how really strong this deck is. But until next time, keep practicing and keep dueling.